Hi, this is Wendy with HTA's Tuesday Tips, and we are back with Susan Steblay.
Hi, I'm Shonda, and this is Ron on a Stick.
Ron is here because Julie couldn't be. So we're going to ask Susan again a few more things. This time let's start with, what do you need to know for investment goals?
Yes, so the first step is to understand how much income that you want in retirement or for whatever purposes you're looking for, and then to come up with an estimated rate of return. Historically in Utah, there's a 5.1% appreciation rate.
Okay.
So that's a useful starting point for understanding how your investment in Utah would be growing and how that would increase over time. And then understanding how much rental income a property will generate. So there's useful tools for that, such as Rent Finder online, and a lot of services will also do rental analysis for you.
Okay.
That's pretty interesting. Ron wants to know where else besides Rent Finder you might look for something like that, because I actually have lots of clients that ask, you know, if I were to buy this property, how would I know what to charge?
Mm-hmm.
And so I know there's got to be, and Ron knows too, there's got to be a formula for that, right, Ron? Yes, Shonda.
So there's a couple ways to approach it. A very common site in Utah is called Rentler. So you can look at similar properties with similar finishes, and you get a pretty good estimate from there on what the rental income could be. You could also look at KSL. That's another pretty good tool for estimating rental income. If you are going to be working with the property manager, they will typically perform a free rental analysis for you as well.
Fantastic.
Or you can get with a local agent, homegrown agent, and we can help you out with that.
But once you understand how much money you're looking for and you understand a typical rate of return, then you can estimate how much property that you need, and from there you can go about building your portfolio.
Okay. Good to know.
How do you determine how much it's going to cost? You know, if there's improvements that need to be made, and what's a safe investment amount for you?
So a typical rule of thumb is to have 6 months of rental expenses saved up. So if your mortgage is, let's say, $2,000 a month, it's fairly safe to have $12,000 saved up.
Okay.
And you can go about that with the rest of your portfolio, making sure that you have 6 months saved up. In terms of estimating repairs and other costs, a good way to do that is to get 3 quotations. So if you're looking for a bigger project, you can reach out to 3 general contractors. If you're looking for a very specific job like flooring, then you could reach out to 3 flooring contractors. And once you have those quotations, you have a pretty good accurate estimate of how much things will cost.
Okay. If you have never invested in anything before, you know nothing about it, what's a good starting amount to start with?
Sure.
Like, I'm going to buy one property and it's going to be a residential one.
Sure.
But I don't know, how much should I save?
Sure. So it depends how you want to invest. How I recommend a lot of people start is to get a primary residence, so a house that you live in, because there's better terms. You can typically get 3.5% down with FHA, 5% down with a conventional loan.
Uh-huh.
If you're living in the house.
If you're living in the
Okay.
house. And typically the rates are also 0.5% to 1.5% lower
Okay.
than going for an investment property. If you are going to pursue an investment type loan, those typically start at a down payment of 10%. It's more common to require a 20% down payment.
So if I got a duplex and I lived in it as my primary residence, I could do that. Or if I had a walkout basement that I rented the whole basement, I could do that as my primary. and is that a better loan than trying to do an investment loan, or?
So when you're talking about renting out a basement, there's two types of basement rentals typically.
Okay.
One would be an accessory dwelling unit, and one would just be a mother-in-law or a walkout basement. So an accessory dwelling unit, basically every city in Utah has specific codes for what's an accessory dwelling unit. At that point, if you're living in the property, you can rent the accessory dwelling unit out for rental income, and you can rent it out to a whole family, etc.,
Okay.
and still be within zoning laws.
So check zoning laws.
Check zoning
Yeah.
laws. So
Okay.
typical zoning laws are going to be 4 to 5 unrelated persons per property.
4 to 5. Okay. Good to know. Excellent.
Now, is that vary per county?
Yes, you should check with
So
your
check
local
zoning
city.
laws.
Mhm.
Okay.
And that would be different if I lived in a regular neighborhood and I wanted to rent out like a room in my basement or my whole basement. You were talking about midterm rentals. Is there any guidelines on whether I could do like an Airbnb of my basement or a room in my basement versus a midterm longer rental for 30 days or more?
Sure. So every city has their own rules about short-term rentals. So most cities prohibit it or require some type of business license to do a short-term rental.
Okay.
It can also be property specific, where they'll allow short-term rentals in certain properties, etc. When you get into midterm, anything over 30 days is treated like a long-term rental.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's going to be subject to the same laws and codes as any other long-term rental when you're doing a midterm rental.
Okay. I kind of heard this little whisper that midterm rentals are kind of on the rise. Is that true?
I think in Utah in particular, so right now the average mortgage payment for a single family home is $3,500 a month, where the average rental of that same single family home is $2,100 a month.
Mm.
So for investors to continue to be able to invest and purchase properties, it typically requires quite a bit of creativity to make it work. And midterm rentals are one way to make more income. Short-term rentals are also another way. A lot of investors will also disobey zoning and do short-term rentals. That's obviously an option,
And that's a risk you got.
but that's a risk you would be
Okay.
taking, because if you are reported, the city can shut down your short-term rental.
Good to know. Thank you so much for
Yes.
being with us today, Susan. We are going to ask Susan to come back and talk to us some more about our investment opportunities, and we invite you to come back and see us then. Until then, have a great day.
You
Ron
too.
says, have a great week. We'll see you later.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.